So welcome, my name is Aaron Bercruci. I'm on HRTV. I also work in the executive offices here at Santa Anita. I'm one of the luckiest guys in the world because I do what I absolutely love to do. So it's a great job. On the panel today, a couple of guys to my left. First, Arnold Zetcher. Arnold is enjoying much success right now as an owner of thoroughbred racehorses. He's going to talk about acquiring a racehorse. He's also going to talk to you a little bit about choosing a trainer. That's a very important decision for an owner. I think he's got a lot of great things to say and a lot of insight to offer you. Gary Fitton at the end is going to talk a little bit about cost of ownership. He's an attorney, so you know, he's one of those guys that really understands exactly how much goes into owning a racehorse, and the much meaning cost. So we start things off with Arnold Zetcher. I'm going to read a little bit about Arnold and let him expand on this. Arnold has been a race fan for most of his life. He started when he was attending Washington University in St. Louis. Now back in the early 2000s, he owned a turf horse that came here first time in the U.S. and won the Manhattan Beach Stakes with Victor, no, not Victor Espinosa, who rode it? McCarran rode it. Now, he owned that racehorse. She would go winless for the remainder of her U.S. career, if I'm not mistaken. Still owns her. She's the mommy of Gabby's Golden Girl, who now is a two-time Grade 1 winner, one on synthetic, one on dirt. Mommy was a stakes winner on turf, so you do the math. I think he's got a very versatile horse in Gabby's Golden Girl, and that's just one of many. So let's give a round of applause for Arnold Zetcher. He's going to talk a little bit about acquiring the racehorse.
As Aaron said, I actually have been a fan forever. When I went to school in St. Louis, I'm from St. Louis, there were a couple of racetracks across the river in East St. Louis, Cahokia Downs and Fairmont Park. They ran at night, so we used to sneak over there in the evenings. I still remember my two favorite horses. This is from the 60s. A horse called Busy Twinkle, another horse called Ed R. And we used to follow those horses all the time. Now that was very low-level horse racing, but we didn't care. It was horse racing. It was really a lot of fun. Then as I moved around in my career, whatever city I was in, I would make sure there was a racetrack not too far away. When I lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I'd get down to Arlington Park. I was actually at Arlington Park when Secretariat ran there in 1973. There were 4 horses in the race. You could buy 2 tickets. You could buy a win ticket on Secretariat or a win ticket on the other 3 horses combined. And I bought both, and I still have those tickets. So those are the kinds of things you hold on to. But through the years, whether it was in New York or whether it was in Cincinnati, I just always loved horse racing. And you know, those days I sat way up there in the corner and enjoyed it. It didn't make any difference to me. In about the year 2000, my wife and I talked about it, and there was a point in time I knew down the road that I would probably stop doing what I was doing at Calvis, and we want to just lay the groundwork for what we might be doing in the future. So I didn't know how to get started, as most owners don't know how to get started. I had a friend who lived in Lexington, and I called him and I said, Michael, Ellen and I would like to maybe get started buying some horses. We don't know how to do it. I said, do you have any contacts? He said, where do you want to do it? I said, well, we live in Boston, but I've always enjoyed Southern California horse racing, and that's where I would like to get started out there. So he said, well, we have a horse that we bred, and the horse is running for Ron McAnally. I could probably set up for you to talk to him. And I said, Ron McAnally? Will he talk to me even? And he said, yeah, he'll talk to you. So a few weeks later, I came out to California. I met Ron in the grandstands over at Hollywood Park. We sat and talked for a little bit, and I told him I was interested, and the price range I was interested in. He said, well, you know, we can get started. Now, Ron told me sometime after that he had many of those conversations with people who thought they were interested in being in horse racing. They'd have one horse, he'd never see him again. And little did we know how things would develop on my end. The first horse we bought was a horse called Spainbird. Bought him in Europe, not overly expensive. We brought him over, and even though I lived in Boston, I wanted to make sure I was here for Spainbird's first win. My first horse, I wanted to be there for the first win. 16 races later, finally Spainberg did win. And there was a lot of trips from Boston just to come out and see him run and just go around the track. In the summer of 2001, we acquired a horse called Gabrielina Joff. And we brought her over, and her first race was in the Manhattan Beach Handicap, and she won. And we were out here, it was on the 4th of July weekend, I think. We were out here, and we saw that, and I remember saying to Ron, boy, this is easy. You just buy a horse and bring them over, and they win, and you're on top of the world. It really isn't quite that easy. But since that time, we've had a bunch of good horses. We've had a bunch of horses that have not been quite so good. In 2003, we won the Del Mar Derby with a horse called Fairly Ransom. 2 years in a row, we lost the Hollywood Derby by a nose. We lost Fairly Ransom lost by a nose, and then the next year, Fast and Furious lost by a nose. You kind of have to think through how much you're willing to spend to start off with, and you know, it's like anything else. I think people say when you go to Las Vegas and you're a gambler, you got to figure out how much you're willing to lose. And I think that does kind of apply to when you're going to buy your first horse or get into partnerships or whatever. You're hoping you can get to the break-even level, and some years you will, and other years you may not. In addition to the horses that I own in total, we're in a bunch of partnerships also. And partnerships might be a great place for people to start looking to get involved. And our reason for going into partnerships was really to learn and to have more experience with more trainers. We had access to a lot more people as part of partnerships. We were in a partnership with Three Chimneys, also in some partnerships with some just individuals. We got together, we bought some horses, and you get the same sense, whether it's an $8,000 claimer or whether it's really a big race. When you're in there running, it's exciting, and if you happen to win, it's really unbelievable.